Today, we will be installing a Painless Performance 14-circuit wire harness into a 1965 Ford Mustang. We have created this video to guide you through the entire process, from the preparation of the vehicle to connecting the headlights, all the way through to the taillight connections. Don't worry, you don't have to be an expert on wiring cars. The Painless Performance wiring harness is designed for an easy and painless installation. There are a few steps to take to ensure your car is fully prepared for the entire installation process. Begin by laying out all the items in the Painless wiring kit. Start the project by examining the complete kit. Make sure all the parts are there before proceeding. The Painless Performance kit includes a main wire harness with a pre-wired fuse block and fuses pre-installed. The parts box includes terminals, splices. The bag kit contains grommets, ballast resistor, 2 firewall pass-through plates, a fuse identification label, and a front exterior light harness, as well as 2 pigtails or sub-harnesses. Begin modifying the firewall holes for the engine section. The firewall holes are used to route the harness to the engine section. 2 different places require a firewall hole to allow the engine and headlight sections to be routed. A firewall hole can be modified round or square. The round hole requires a grommet, as the square hole requires a pass-through plate. In this case, we are modifying with a round hole. The best way to modify a square hole into a round hole is to trace the round grommet provided with the Painless kit. Enlarge the hole according to the tracings. However, be sure to leave 1/4 of an inch from the tracings for proper fitting of the grommets. Once the holes are completely modified, insert the grommets as shown. Once the grommets are placed in the firewall hole, start removing the wires from the factory connector. Proceed to remove the factory wires from the factory connector. The Painless harness has pre-installed factory terminals for the headlight and wiper section. In order to reuse your factory connector, take a paper clip or stiff wire, then insert it right above the terminal. Insert the wire as far back as it can go to push down the lock of the terminal. Release the factory wires. You will follow this procedure for the remainder of the terminals. This is the last step in the preparation. Move forward to the interior section of the wiring. The interior section will jump-start the wiring process by installing the main wiring harness, as well as other critical components. Mounting the fuse block is the first step in the interior section. Fuse block mounting requires 2 self-tapping screws provided in the parts kit. Mount the fuse block base to the driver's side of the vehicle, near the factory location. After the base is mounted, the fuse block will be installed and snapped into place. Once the fuse block is installed, begin to route the harness. This step is crucial to make sure that the right wires are going to the right places. In this circumstance, we will not be installing the accessory section. The dash section will be routed across the dash so the engine section can pass through the center hole previously enlarged. Once the harness is passed through the firewall hole, begin to locate the driver's side door connections. This process includes connecting 2 pre-terminated wires to the driver's side door switch located in the door jamb. Insert the green and black wires into the back of the door switch. The wires can go in either side of the switch because the switch is non-polarity specific. Insert the switch into the door jamb. When the switch is in place, begin to connect the wiper switch. The wiper switch connections are made using the wiper switch pigtail. This particular install has a 2-speed wiper setup. The diagram seen here has been provided for those with a single-speed system. The connections are made using the factory connector. 2 wires from the Painless kit will be added to the wiper switch pigtail. Connect the orange and black Painless wires to the factory connector. Replace the pre-installed terminals with new push-on terminals on all 7 wires, as well as the switch. Plug the wiper switch connector into the back of the wiper switch. Zip tie the wiper switch pigtail to the wiper portion of the harness for safety purposes. After inserting the wiper switch knob into the dashboard, move on to connect the wiper motor. The opposite ends of the wiper switch wires will connect to the wiper motor. Connect the top portion of the wiper motor using the pre-installed molded connectors. Then connect the bottom section of the motor. And last but not least, connect the ground. Once the wiper motor connections have been made, begin making connections to the headlight switch. Locate the headlight switch wires to begin installation. A diagram is shown to illustrate the proper connections. All 7 wires have factory wire terminals pre-installed. Connect a push-on terminal for those without a factory headlight switch connector. After the wires have been terminated, connect the factory headlight switch to the headlight switch wires of the Painless harness. Once the headlight switch connections have been made, install the switch into the dash. Once the switch is properly connected, insert the knob into the switch. Begin to make air conditioning and heater connections. 2 separate diagrams are shown for the AC and heater connections. The actual connections will not be shown. If you have a 2-speed system, follow the 2-speed diagram, also known as Figure 24 on page 27, located in your manual. Or if you have a 3-speed wiper system, follow the 3-speed diagram, known as Figure 25 on page 28 of the manual. Once the connections have been made, proceed to connect the dimmer switch. Locate the dimmer switch on the driver's side floor. The dimmer switch bolts may need to be loosened to ensure proper installation of the dimmer switch connector. With the pre-installed connector, connect to the dimmer switch located on the driver's side floor. Check to make sure the bolts are securely tightened. Once the bolts are tightened in place, move on to the brake switch connections. The brake switch is located at the top of the brake pedal. Route and connect the 2 brake switch wires. Like the door switches, the brake switch is not polarity specific. Once the brake switch wires have been connected, begin to connect the turn signal switch. Locate the turn signal connectors and factory connectors near the steering column. Figure 16 from page 20 of the manual is illustrated for aftermarket GM-style columns. The pre-installed connectors will connect to the factory connectors from the steering column. A 6-way connector and a 2-way connector require the same process of connection. After both connections have been made, move on to the courtesy light. This process consists of 2 pre-terminated wires. One belongs to the left side, the other belongs to the right. Remove the wire from the factory harness. Cut 6 to 8 inches on the wire to allow connection of a bullet terminal. Connect this wire to the driver's side courtesy light wire with the pre-installed socket terminal. Plug the light into the courtesy lamp socket. This socket is not visible because it is located inside the dashboard. After proper placement of the courtesy light, start to install the ignition switch.